Imagine that you decided to enlist in the United States Army and you're deployed alongside people from the United States Air Force. And you get to stay in a tent with one air conditioner and possibly up to 31 other people, while an airman gets to stay in a hard building with possibly up to 3 other people and a separate air conditioner for each room and Wi-Fi. Hello, I'm Brandon Tate. Today I'm going to argue that the United States Air Force is the best branch to join because of how hard it is to enter the Air Force and what that means for its airmen, how often and how much airmen deploy versus people in the other branches, the quality of life of airmen versus people in the other branches, and how much easier it is to get a college degree while in the Air Force versus being in the other branches. So let us start by looking at how hard it is to enter the Air Force and what that could mean for its airmen. According to the United States military section of the About website, the following are some of the hurdles that you have to overcome in order to join the military, and in particular the United States Air Force. According to the United States Air Force official website, the Air Force active duty ascension goal is the smallest of the 4 service branches, including the Army, the Navy, and the Marine Corps. On this side right here is the Air Force. The next smallest is the Marine Corps, followed by the Navy, followed by the Army. That is one of the hurdles you have to overcome. Another hurdle you have to overcome is the fact that the Air Force requires the highest ASVAB score of the 4 other service branches, with a 36 for the Air Force, a 31 required for the Army, a 32 for the Marine Corps, and a 35 for the Navy. Another hurdle is education. The Air Force is the most stringent on requiring high school diplomas. Only about half of 1% of Air Force enlistees per year have GEDs. And if you do have a GED, in order to even be considered, you have to score at least a 65 on the ASVAB. Now look at the Army. In fiscal year 2008, about 17% of their enlistees had GEDs. And from what I gathered, they do not require a minimum ASVAB score. Now for the Navy and Marine Corps, if a person has a GED, they must score a minimum of a 50 on the ASVAB. Another hurdle is the fact that the Air Force approves far less medical and criminal history waivers than any other branch. So from these statistics, you can see it's very hard to enlist in the Air Force as compared to the other branches. Now on to how often and how much Air Force airmen deploy. Let's look at the length and frequency of deployments for Air Force airmen. According to the United States military section of the About website, the most the airmen will deploy is for 6 months at a time, and the frequency varies depending on your career field. All career fields in the Air Force are divided into 5 bands, and depending on what band your career field's in is how often you will deploy. There are 7 career fields out of the over 150 that are in the Air Force that can be deployed for 6 months per year, meaning 6 months deployed, 6 months at home. And those are listed in Band E. Now then, the other 4 bands, they vary between 12 months at home and 24 months at home, with 6 months being deployed. So while that may sound like a lot, let's look at the other branches. If you look at the Army and the Marines, their average deployment is for 12 months, and then they get 12 months at home station. Whereas in the Navy, sailors on sea duty can be expected to be deployed between 6 and 9 months per year, and then they get to go home for 4 or 5 months, and then they have to go back out for another deployment of 6 to 9 months. And then sailors that are on shore duty, they're still not exempt. They can be deployed alongside Army and Marines for the Army and Marine deployment, which is 12 months long. So from looking at this, you can see that if you join the Air Force, you won't have to deploy as long and possibly not as often as people in the other branches. Now on to the quality of life of airmen versus other branches. I'm going to examine the unmarried airmen versus that of the unmarried enlisted of the other branches in regards to their dormitories or barracks, as the other branches call them. In the Army, Navy, and Air Force, they treat their unlisted junior enlisted the same way, or at least they try to. They try to give you your own room, and they make you share a bathroom and a kitchen with someone in another room. Whereas in the Marines, they believe in letting you have a roommate and then you have a bathroom and a kitchen. But where the Air Force differs on this is that once you reach the grade of E4, also known as senior airman, then you have 3 years time in service, you're allowed to move off base. This is the earliest among all the other branches. In the Army and Marine Corps, they can keep you in the barracks until you're at least an E6. In the Air Force, that's unheard of. Because as I said, once you're E4 and you have 3 years of service, you can move off base. And in the Navy, they keep you in the barracks until you reach the grade of E4, but until you have 4 years time in service. So an extra year versus the Air Force. So while the quality of life in the Air Force, Army, and Navy may be similar in regards to how they house their unmarried and junior enlisted for the first couple of years of their career, the Air Force allows its airmen to move off base earlier than all the other branches. Now on to a reason a majority of people join the military, which is to pursue education. Let's look at how easy it is to achieve a college degree in the Air Force versus the other branches. The Air Force has the Community College of the Air Force, which is a degree granting program that is only for Air Force airmen. Airmen earn credits based on any kind of training they take, such as basic training. You earn credits for going to basic training. Such as technical school, you earn credits for learning how to do your job. And these go toward an Associates of Applied Science degree. And after you complete 64 credit hours, you'll be awarded the Associates of Applied Science in your career field, which for myself is logistics management. And as I mentioned before, the Air Force deploys the shortest amount of time, and also in most cases less frequently than the other branches. So just in that aspect, it'd be a lot easier to attend a college by your house or by the base versus being in the other branches where a lot of times you have to either do it online or, like I said in my beginning, you may not even have Wi-Fi. So it'd make it even more difficult to achieve a college degree. So from this fact that the Air Force can give you an associate's degree for just doing your job, and from the fact that you have more time to take classes, you can see that the Air Force is a better branch to join in regards to education. So today I argued why the United States Air Force is the best branch to join because of how hard it is to enter, what that means for its airmen, its deployments versus the other branches, its quality of life versus those of the other branches, and how much easier it is to get a college degree in the Air Force. So now you can go back to my beginning. Would you rather be a soldier in a tent with up to 31 other people, or the airman living in a hard building with up to only about 3 other people?